what's going on here?
Seattle's pretty close.
I know, but it was like it was crappy, and there's security through there. The security lines in there were outrageous because they don't have enough security lines, and they've got the drug sniffing dog because, of course, it's Seattle, so the dog's sniffing you. So they tell you now. This is crazy about this airport. They tell you, say, put everything in your bags.
Okay.
Don't have anything out. Don't leave anything in your pockets. Put everything in your bags because we have the drug sniffing dog. Because the dog is going to wants to sniff just one area on you, and that's your bag, right? So when you're going through security, you get in this kind of C-line type of thing, this curve. And the dog and his handler just go around this curve like all the time. As you're going through it, the dog is like just walking around with his handler, walking a circle, and you're going through this curve, and he'll sniff you out and whatever, and that's how they do it. Sure. And then when you get up to the X-ray machine, they say, leave all your stuff in the bag. Don't even take anything out. And of course, I get hit, even though I did not partake in anything at all. I get hit with the extra security screening on the way out. So, my wife has been extra security screening before. We went to Cancun a couple of years ago. And that was a shit show. Because all of her bags had come out. They had to dust everything. It took like a half hour. They dusted her for everything. And I'm going, oh shit. Lucky thing we were at the airport early on the way back. Because I was thinking, whatever. I'm like, oh shit, they're going to strip search me and look at my ass and all that type of stuff. You know what I mean? I was thinking the worst.
Right.
And the guy comes to me and goes, hey, put out your hands. I'm like, excuse me? He's like, put out your hands. I said, okay. Put my hands out. He takes a piece of paper and just scrapes my hands with it. I'm like, okay, what is this? He puts it in the machine. Oh, you're good. Bye-bye. I'm like, that was the extra screening? You just wanted to see if I had residue on my hands? I don't get this. Yeah. You know? I don't understand it. So, we are very lucky to live in Minnesota because our airport rocks.
It does. Nice.
So if we ever go to Seattle, we did drive by Safeco and what's the other?
CenturyLink.
CenturyLink. We did drive by those huge spots right down. We drove right by it. It was crazy. I will say this: I do like Minnesota's stadium looks a lot better than their stadium looks. You know, because they're right next to each other and they're kind of south of the downtown, and they're just not in a good area.
Sure,
I'd say. I think we have better areas than that. So that's my podcast, Adam Carolla podcast story.
Nice. You know, so when I flew to LA back in 2016, I also got the advanced screening, and they did the hands.
Yeah, the hands thing. Yeah,
and they also did extra screening on my crotch.
They screen your crotch?
Yeah, I don't. Wow. That was weird. But it turns out when I got home, all of a sudden I was like, I was talking to Sarah and I'm like, I don't understand why they did it. I mean, they like checked my fingernails and and they did some other stuff around my crotch area.
Yeah,
and I was like, what the hell? And I got changed, and all of a sudden I looked down in my pants.
Yeah,
and I had literally just bought those pants in LA.
Oh.
There's a security badge.
Oh, sure.
Literally right on my crotch.
Sure.
And I was like, I wonder if that stupid piece of, aluminum or whatever that stuff's made of got flagged.
Flagged it, yeah.
And so they pulled me out.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so I was terrified when they pulled me.
The extra screening thing now, my wife got it because, well, she made not a mistake, but something that would flag you. Years ago when she got her passport, she got it hurried up, expedited, right? Because she thought her and her friend going on a cruise. They canceled the cruise 2 weeks before. She didn't use the passport again until this Cancun flight. So I have a feeling if you expedite something and then cancel and then use it again, they're probably going to flag you. And she got flagged that time. But hers was more this was more invasive. This was like everything in your bag, swiping for powders, and it was nuts. It was crazy.
What airport did that happen at?
Well, it happened at MSP when we left.
Okay.
We stopped in Dallas. Didn't happen again until our flight back. Happened in Dallas, and this was the bad part. Our flight back from Cancun got delayed for 7 hours because it was one of those Sun Country flights where they fly to Dallas, Cancun, then come back, and it's one flight a day.
Yeah.
Well, they had problems in Dallas, so it was 7 hours delayed. So when we got back into Dallas, we had to go back through customs. So we had to get off the plane, go back through, and of course it's like 1 o'clock in the morning in Dallas. Sure. And so they flagged her, and they're doing all this shit to her, right? And the guy from the airline's like, hey, she needs to get on this plane. We need to get this plane flipping going. And they're like, no, sorry, sir. We got to do all this stuff, And if I was smarter about it, I would have said, before we even got on the plane out of Cancun, I would have said, Kelly, give me all the electronic stuff, put it in my bag, because I'm not getting flagged. Don't have anything on you. Oh, and then I will, I'll get through security and you'll be fine. They won't have to do it. But they powdered like everything. All of our electronics, they powdered.
Wow.
They were crazy about it. But
yeah, that's significant.
Yeah, it was nuts. But it wasn't like I said, Seattle, I just wiped my hands and I'm like, okay, I didn't do anything while I was in Seattle. I promised I didn't do anything when I was in Seattle. My wife made sure I didn't. Some other people on my trip might have, but we won't talk about that. So, off of that, let's talk about a couple things. First and foremost, Chris Wright, the CEO of the Loons, made a little comment the other day saying that he gave the front office
and Adrian
Heath a passing grade for this year, which of course you commented on Twitter, because I think we talked about this on this podcast. We think Adrian Heath has done the best job he can with what he's got.
Right.
We have not been happy with Manny Lagos at all. No. So for Chris Wright to give him a passing grade is kind of a slap in the face.
Yeah, and I think, it is what it is, but at the same time, it's kind of crazy. Now, I tried, because I'm like the great negotiator on Twitter.
Yeah.
Where I'm always trying to see both sides of the story and find a benefit somewhere, which my wife would just laugh at because I'm like the most pessimistic person ever. But I tried to argue, well, passing grade.
Yeah.
If you get a passing grade, it could be a C.
It could be a C. Yeah, it could be a C.
If you think of it in school terms.
Yeah.
In my MBA program, a C minus is as passing as you can get. Anything below that's a failing. And so I'm like, well, you could get a 70%. Is that really? It's passing.
It's passing, yeah.
But it's not saying that you're good.
No, right? Of course not.
And so for me, I was kind of trying to go from that perspective, where I was like, well, okay, well, he's saying, look, it could be a lot worse.
Yeah.
In which, we're at a one more win than we had last year.
Yeah.
So, in theory, we're going to be better than last year.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that we did well. That doesn't mean that Manny Lagos did well. That doesn't mean that Heath did well. Now, however, it would have been really nice for him to say that, right?
Yeah.
Because when you just say it's a passing grade,
when you don't put anything on that, when you say passing grade and you don't say anything about it. Now, I'm going to say this. Manny Lagos has made some decisions in the past couple months that we really won't know about till next year.
Right.
Okay? Trading Christian Ramirez, of course, was a bad thing for the fans.
Right.
But this is, again, like at all pro sports, it's a business.
Right.
So a passing grade from Chris Wright might be he did everything we asked him to do.
It's true.
And we'll see where that goes.
Yeah. And he did say, I believe, I could be mixing up his comments. He did say that we were not where we should be.
Yeah.
And so in the whole context, it's kind of like, well, you still said it's passing grade without any context.
Yeah.
On that. Then you kind of said, well, we could be better. I mean, it lends to the argument that, he's kind of thinking the way I am, where, it's passing. We're not going to fire anyone.
No, not yet.
At the same time, I think Manny Legos should have been booted back probably last offseason. I don't think he belonged here at all, but we differ on that.
We did. We brought this up a couple times in this podcast. I think that you have to give a team at least a couple of years, especially an expansion team, to kind of see where they're going to go. Now, he did make some moves at the end of the season that hopefully will be better for us.
Right.
But if they're not, then he needs to go. That's just the way it works. In sports, in this day and age, I think you should at least get 2, if not 3 years to make your process, do your whole plan thing.
Right.
And Adrian Heath is not the problem on this team.
Oh yeah, I think we both are on the same page.
Adrian Heath is not the problem. He does some things that we don't like. The substitute stuff.
Right.
We don't like that. But if you gave Adrian Heath the talent that he wants, then he would produce winners.
Right. And I agree with that. And obviously there are some people that don't agree with that believe it's all Adrian Heath.
It's not, though.
And you're always going to have that group, though.
But people like that, and I don't mean to offend any of our listeners, and if there's listeners out there who think Adrian Heath should go, I want to put this out for you. He is the manager/coach of this team, okay?
The gaffer.
The gaffer. He does the best with what he has, okay? If he doesn't get what he needs, he is not going to do the best. So, we have seen what he can do with a guy like Darwin, with guys like Ibarra and Ibarra, the two Ibarras. Angelo last game. He's got Bobby Shuttleworth. Good, almost, I would say, bordering on great goalie. He's
above average.
He's above average. And he's got Calvo. Okay? Yeah. He's got some good pieces. He wants more, of course. And I think halfway through the season, Lagos finally said, okay, Adrian, what do you need? And Adrian said, I need this, 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 and this. And the trade happened. We picked up some guys, and we'll see if it works. Right. Now, if it doesn't work, we don't know if that's on Lagos or Heath because they won't tell us.
Right.
They won't come out and say, Lagos will never come out and say, well, Adrian told me to sign these guys.
Right.
It's Lagos who's in the fire for this. Right? He's the guy who makes decisions. So if this doesn't work out coming in next year, then Lagos is the one who's on the chopping block and should be fired.
But I think it's going to be Heath that gets fired.
Well, yes, of course. And you know why?
Which I think is wrong.
And you know why that is, though. It happens in pro sports everywhere.
It does.
Managers, coaches get fired because they can't get winners on the floor or the court or the ice or wherever, even though they're not given the guys to do what they want to do.
Well, that's the thing with, it's the thing with most sports, unless you're the Packers. Because they've kept Mike McCarthy forever,
Well, the Packers keep coaches forever.
Which is absurd, because I think you should have gone a while
ago. Well, you know why they do that, though. You know why they do it.
No, please enlighten me.
Because they're the Packers. They have this whole, thing of keeping guys on for long periods of time, and it's just keep going with this. McCarthy's changed offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators how many times, though?
offensive coordinators a lot.
Yeah.
But defensive coordinators less.
They just changed, yeah.
But, you're right. I mean, the